And now for our feature presentation.
You'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
Centerville baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers.
Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good afternoon and welcome aboard. Happy December. The JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. You can find them at stokesvw.com. You can find us on the all-new JB and Goldwater app, and, of course, also on our website, jbandgoldwatershow.com. To the right of your screen is Darren Goldwater. I'm Jamie. We're here until 2 o'clock this afternoon. We're thrilled that you can join us. Hopefully you'll have some fun, as we plan to. Certainly, it is a brisk day in the low country, probably pretty much everywhere across the state of South Carolina and beyond. So bundle up wherever you go. 843-321-8893 is our phone number and our text line. And those are open until about 12:30. So if you'd like to be a part of the if you'd like to be a part of the conversation, you can certainly do that there. Across all social media platforms at JB and Goldwater collectively and individually at Sports Radio JB and at Darren Goldwater. Today, Mike Bobo will address the media coming up in a little bit over 25 minutes. And so we'll bring you some of that, and we'll fuss and discuss afterwards at 1 o'clock. 8-year NFL veteran and former Gamecock Pat DeMarco, he will join us as well, and Gene Sapikoff at 1:30. So it's another full boat. We've got some college football playoff ranking scenarios to get out to you. We did discuss some yesterday. We got more of that. We'll talk about College Game Day, making a trip back to the great state of South Carolina, but this time up in Conway. And much, much more. All that being said, hello, Darren.
How you doing, man?
Happy December.
Yeah, happy December. Happy new addition to our show. You can now comment everywhere you're watching, and everyone can see. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on Twitter, and you actually click into the Periscope thing, comment away. We have this all now set up, and I'm going to mess with it. We'll pop up a couple comments too. And interact as we go along with this show. So maybe that's easier than texting or calling because you're already watching. Mm-hmm. So go ahead, fire it up, have some fun.
There you go. All right, so it'll be right there on the screen. I don't know what you do. You just do, you do stuff, and I don't ever know what you do. All I know is I do the show, and then I find out later on the next night that you're doing something else. So that's what we're doing now.
That's what we're doing. Okay. I text you like 8:30. Man, I figured it out.
Okay. I don't ever know what we're doing around here. Never know what she's doing back there. Meatloaf. Again, 843-321-8893. So when somebody sends a comment, it'll just pop up on the screen.
So I need to pop it up on the screen.
Oh, you can pop it up on the screen.
So for example, Marion says, "What's up, guys?" So I'll pop that up on the screen right there. If you're watching, you could see that. And we could say, "What's up, Marion?" And then I can just pull that right down.
Gotcha.
If Nathan Crocker says, "Yo, yo," we put that up. Say,
gotcha.
"Yo, what's going on, man?"
Gotcha.
Take that down.
All right. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. The coaching search continues at South Carolina, and we'll obviously talk to Pat DeMarco about that today, and also to Gene Sapikoff, expecting to get a much more in-depth update more than likely tomorrow with JC Sherbert from thebigspur.com. Of course, he's always with us for an hour on Wednesdays around here, but I can give you a couple of updates that we have. First and foremost, I would highly suggest not crossing guys like Scott Satterfield and Billy Napier off the list if you've done so. Don't do that yet. This is still a very fluid situation. I still have incredible reason to believe that Shane Beamer at this point in time is still probably the leader to get this job, but that could change. That could change, certainly. And so those are two names that still need to be in there. I know that, over the last couple of days, the story or the questions have arisen, why haven't we heard about Billy Napier in a while and things like that? Well, remember, Billy Napier had COVID, and there is a season still being played for all of these schools, including Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns. And so you got to figure out timelines and stuff like that. And remember, South Carolina is keeping this very close to the vest here, very, very close to the vest. They're keeping this very quiet. So a lot of the information we get is good information, but it's not all of it. Let's just say that at all, especially compared to what happened 5 years ago before Will Muschamp was hired in Columbia. So, but I expect, from what I understand, for Billy Napier to officially interview for the position. Also expect Scott Satterfield to continue to be involved. Now, again, last week, the AD at Louisville issued a statement. Now he's going to be here. Satterfield kind of dispelled a lot of that stuff. Hey, I'm really happy with where I am and things like that. But let's just say that they're both still definitely in the mix. And certainly so is Shane Beamer. And really, for the most part, really, so is everybody. I mean, nobody has just come out and said they're all eliminated. This group here, they're not involved. We don't know any of that to be 100% true. So you can't really say that or report things like that because there's just not factual evidence that that's the case.
And really, South Carolina has done a nice job of keeping this pretty close to the vest. I mean, typically really by this point, we're over 2 weeks into this thing by now, since the firing. So typically by this point, we would have concrete, well, if not concrete information, really believable information that says this guy's interviewed, we know where, but we don't have that. We have a lot of assumptions. We believe Shane Beamer has interviewed. If he hasn't, he certainly will. We believe there are other interviews that have happened. If they have not, some of the names that we know, Billy Napier, Satterfield, if they have not, they certainly will. But the exact inner workings have been kept pretty close to the vest. And that's impressive. And that shows you that Ray Tanner, Caslin, they're taking this thing seriously, A. B, they are doing their due diligence without letting the process leak out there. Yeah. So there are a lot of guys. I mean, a lot of guys we talked to on the show, like Cloninger and like Wes Mitchell and like JC and you working your sources. You're getting similar information, but not exactly the same. And that's a good thing for South Carolina. You know that they're doing their due diligence.
Yeah, I'll say, in the circles that I am able to kind of run through and run with, most of the information that I get correlates with the information from what I would call the experts that we have on our program, like Wes yesterday, JC tomorrow, guys like that, who certainly have many more sources than I've got. But we also have some different sources, but when we're getting the same general information, we pretty much know, okay, you can kind of read through the tea leaves a little bit here and there to figure out exactly what's going on for as much as we're able to know what's going on. Keep in mind with this search, Ray Tanner in South Carolina did not hire a search firm. Remember that. They did not. They hired a consultant. That's what they did. And that consultant's job strictly really it was to keep this quiet and to be able to use his channels and resources to perform deep and proper background checks. It was an informational thing and to keep this as quiet as possible. They didn't want to open this up to a search firm who was essentially going to pick the candidate for you. That's not Coach Tanner's style at all. And they eliminated most of the board of trustees from this because that will prevent a lot of leaks. Now, there are some things out there that have gotten out, obviously, and you really have to kind of work some backdoor channels to get a lot of that information. But it's not some big committee in Columbia where you've got a better chance of things kind of getting out there. Examples from past. So all that being said, at this point in time, it continues to look like Shane Beamer is the leader. I would probably put my odds on him right now, but that can obviously change today and tomorrow or Friday or Saturday or whenever. I would also expect by this time next week that this thing is we might even be getting an announcement today next week.
So what are we, Tuesday?
Yeah,
Tuesday
we
of
might
next
even
week.
be getting an announcement by this day next week.
Do you think it's a done deal on Sunday and then announce? I mean, as soon as the season's over, pull Bobo in, have the conversation with Bobo. It's probably a done deal by then, and then announced Monday or Tuesday, that type of thing.
Possibly. Yeah, possibly. I mean, the timelines can always change a little bit depending on the candidate that you're going to hire, because that individual's timeline might change just a tad. So, we really don't know necessarily, but if I had to guess, if you said, when do you think we'll get an announcement? I would guess this day next week is probably a pretty good date to circle on your calendar.
So if that's the case, and I agree with you, I think it is early next week at some point, which then means what's going on right now is approaching the final stages of whatever's happening behind the scenes, so that they can have whoever they have, understanding that when this season is over, then word will come out. I think, especially after talking with Wes Mitchell yesterday, and one of the things he said, they've at Gamecock Central have been hearing consistently that it's an after the season type of thing, because why come out and announce it right now and distract Bobo, distract the players before the final game of the year? Let them have this. Let them have the final game. And then once that's done, then you can have the conversation behind closed doors, and then you can let stuff get out.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fluid situation. I do have plenty of reason to believe that we're on the back end of the process. But there also, I would say, trying to word this properly here, because we all know how some things spread across the internet, and I don't want my name attached to it. But I would say that there are also in different stages with certain candidates in the process. Although they're on the back end of this entire process, some candidates are a little bit further along than others.
Well, certainly, because
if that makes sense,
right? Some have been interviewed. Some have had the face-to-face. Some have had the Zoom interview. Some have had further discussions than others. And that's the point where you're at. You're probably at a point now where whatever the candidate list was, however many were on that list, it's not as big anymore. You're down to whatever number, say finalists, if you want, semifinalists.
Right.
You've cut that list, and now you're dealing with each individual going around and again, checking boxes. We've talked a lot about that. What's important to Ray Tanner? What's important to Bob Caslin? What outweighs another factor? What isn't as important as another factor? All of those types of things. So certainly some guys are farther along than others, and that's what this week will show us. That's what this week takes us through.
Yeah, what will be interesting to see, which I don't truly believe that there's going to be anything earth-shattering at this point in time coming from the college football world as it pertains to job openings and things like that. But what will be interesting to kind of keep an eye on over the next, especially like kind of into this weekend, most notably, I would say Sunday, is if let's say there is another major change somewhere. Now if that's at a place like Michigan or something, the effect at South Carolina, no, not really, or Texas or something like that. But let's say something behind the scenes is going on that we just don't know about it in a place like Tennessee or something like that. That could have an effect on this job if you've circled a candidate that you really feel is best fit for South Carolina. Also might not have an effect at all. We don't really know. I mean, that's the thing, is there are a lot of people that speculate, and you have to be careful what you read on message boards and Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that. I know a couple weeks ago, our buddy Steven Garcia probably made the best recommendation I've heard of anybody this year, and that was just get off of social media.
Yeah.
So people speculate things like, this guy, well, he might want this job, or this guy doesn't want, this guy's turned you down. Nobody knows that stuff. Like, there's a reason why those who are understanding this process better than others are saying things like, don't eliminate anybody yet, because we don't know that those people have been eliminated. Now, there might be, I mean, I was texting with JC last night. All right.
Yep.
There's some things that he is certainly much more privy to than I am. some information that he has. That's his information to share. And if he chooses to share it, that's fine. So you keep an eye on thebigspur.com or listen in tomorrow. Maybe he'll do it. But, he has reason to believe certain things in this process that look like that's where it's headed. But he doesn't have confirmation that that's exactly fact yet.
Of course.
So if he doesn't, with the channels that he works, careful what else you listen to.
Mm-hmm.
He's just one reference I'll make here. But it's certainly a fluid situation. But we'll just see. We'll see if there's some other job openings or something like that. I do anticipate though that where this is kind of narrowed down to for South Carolina, Darren, with the candidates that I believe to be the kind of the final group.
Yeah, front runners,
maybe the front runner type group. I do believe that South Carolina, no matter really what happened around them, would more than likely be in a pretty good spot with them.
Even if other things start to move.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I do, because I don't know if it's the same group of candidates that would be sought after by Vanderbilt. Maybe to a degree, but how much is a reach? We've talked a lot in the last week or two about the interest that this job is garnering. And it's not just Carolina's convincing someone to come. There are people who want to come to Carolina. Now, they've got their own reasons. Some think it's a career type job, like Shane Beamer has said. Others, you don't know. But that's at least the position that Carolina's in, where you have people who really do want the job. Vanderbilt, maybe you have to convince someone a little bit more. Yeah. Same thing, Tennessee. I don't know if you're going after the same candidates. Are you targeting Hugh Freeze? I mean, is that just a target right there on the back of Freeze, if that even opens? I don't know. But my sense is right along with you that the other openings, I don't think impact what's happening.
Let me say something too about Hugh Freeze. I know that when the Carolina job came open, you had all these national analysts and college football figureheads on TV, telling everybody what South Carolina should do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's what South Carolina should do. They should hire Hugh Freeze, throw the book at Dave Clawson, do this, do that, yada, yada, yada. We heard all that stuff. So I'm going to take this as my opportunity to tell somebody else what they should do.
Mm-hmm.
even though my voice doesn't mean anything like Kirk Herbstreit's does, but because everyone else is doing it, let me throw the book at Vanderbilt real quick. They should go hire Hugh Freeze. How about that?
Well, that'd be something.
You go make the run at Hugh Freeze. I don't know. I'm sure they can afford it because they don't release their financials and things like that. But there's an endowment that's large at Vanderbilt. Remember what Vanderbilt was funded on, guys. Remember where their money comes from up there. If you want to make a splash, go hire Hugh Freeze.
What did Josh Payton?
I mean, honestly, like, what do you? Let me ask you a question. What do you think? Of course, that might cause Tennessee to go, Jeremy Pruitt, you're out. But I mean, what do you think Tennessee would be thinking if a guy like Hugh Freeze got hired to Vanderbilt, who's beat the Vols 3 of the last 5 years, the traditional doormat of the SEC? What do you think Tennessee would be thinking if a guy like Hugh Freeze, all of a sudden, it became serious about Vanderbilt?
They'd be thinking, continue.
I mean,
on. Because
like James Franklin won at Vanderbilt. Like, you can win at Vanderbilt. Now, can you win a national championship or an SEC championship? I think the odds are much better that you can do that at South Carolina than you can at Vanderbilt. All right. At least that's the way I see it today. People used to say this about South Carolina 10, 20 years ago. And I think that's changed. If you just walk on campus of Carolina, you look around and go, wow. But I mean, like, they hired James Franklin. James Franklin won 9 games at Vanderbilt. You think Hugh Freeze can win 9 games at Vanderbilt and be a hero? I bet you he could.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's about recruiting and finding guys who are a little bit under the radar. But at the same time, if you're Hugh Freeze, if you're Vanderbilt and you've got the name Hugh Freeze, then you're able to
name your price.
You're able to steal a couple recruits.
Yeah.
Because you can say, look, we're going to win, and we're going to win pretty quickly.
Right.
But that would send shockwaves with his past.
Oh.
And I understand you want to look past the past, if you will. Vanderbilt and the institutions and what that's founded on, and Freeze, I'd send shockwaves.
Oh.
Shockwaves.
No question. No question. 843-321-8893. That's the phone number, also the text line. And if you've got something to say and you're watching the show wherever you're watching it, if you can chat on there, Darren can put it on the screen. So if you've got comments, feel free to let them loose and we'll pop them up there.
The interesting one that came across here recently, best resume versus best fit. And we talked about that a little bit. And I think there's a blend, though. I think the best resume versus the best fit is a blurred line as we get closer to the finish line.
The best resume versus the best fit for Carolina?
Yeah, culturally, really anywhere. Because is it a guy, and because here's why I think it's a blurred line. Is the best resume to you might not be the best resume to me.
No, I mean, I think the best resume is Hugh Freeze, but him being in Columbia is the odds right now I don't think are good.
I agree.
But he's the best resume.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look what he's done. I mean, Matt Campbell's got the best resume. Matt Campbell has a good resume, but Hugh Freeze has the best resume. If we're going to argue what's the best resume, but who's the best fit? The best fit is, in my opinion, Shane Beamer, Billy Napier, or probably Scott Satterfield.
Satterfield too, huh?
Because he's from the state of North Carolina. I mean, he's got family in this area. He likes it down here.
He does.
He gets it. But I think the best fit would be one of those two that I just mentioned. I'd throw Neil Brown in there, but I have my doubts about Neil Brown actually leaving West Virginia.
You think he's using it as a play almost?
Yeah, I would think that you could almost probably eliminate him.
All right, fair enough.
So we'll see. College Game Day is coming back to the great state of South Carolina Saturday. They'll be in Conway for Coastal and Liberty. I can't give you the rankings of these two schools because tonight the college football playoff rankings will be officially released for the second time this season. So tomorrow we can update you on the rankings, but they have been here. This will be the 15th time that Game Day has landed in South Carolina, 14 times prior. The first back in 2001, November the 10th in Columbia. And I remember this game very well. 4th ranked Florida and the Gators and Steve Spurrier rolled in. It was a blackout. That was the first ever blackout at Williams-Brice Stadium. And the Gators trounced the Gamecocks 54-17. And Carolina was number 15 in the country that night. And I remember after the game specifically I think it was Adrian Karsten on the field, who was the sideline reporter for ESPN at the time, asked Coach Spurrier, "What'd you think about all the Gamecocks wearing black tonight?" He said, "Well, we appreciated that. Helped our wide receivers see the ball better." And they did. They saw it quite well. The next Game Day appearance, 2004, that was September the 11th, 3 years to the date. Yeah, from September the 11th, 2001. 4th-ranked Georgia in town. Gamecocks up 16-0 in that game, lost 20-16 to the Dogs. And then less than a year later, 2005, to lead off the season, Spurrier debuted as the head coach of the Gamecocks. Game Day arrived then. Carolina beat Central Florida 24-15. George O'Leary was the coach of the Golden Knights back then.
George O'Leary.
The first time they went to Clemson, just a year later, October the 21st, 13th ranked Georgia Tech at 12th ranked Clemson. Tigers won that one 31-17. October the 28th, 1 week later, they went right down the street to Columbia for the Gamecocks and 8th ranked Tennessee. Tennessee won the game 31-24. And then the next appearance was the upset of number 1 Bama in Columbia, October the 9th, 2010. And then just 2 years later, October the 6th, 5th ranked Georgia, 6th ranked South Carolina. That is when they brought back the old saying, "If it ain't swaying, we ain't playing," because it was swaying that night. It was a blowout of sorts. Carolina over the Dogs, 35-7. It really started swaying around in there when Ace Sanders took the punt return to the house. 2013, August 31st, 2013, in Clemson, 5th ranked Georgia, 8th ranked Tigers, 38-35. Clemson win that year to open the season. They would return just a couple of months later for 5th ranked FSU and 3rd ranked Clemson. Not so kind that night to the Tigers, 51-14 blowout in favor of the Seminoles. And then the following year, it was weird. I remember this well. South Carolina ranked 13th in the country, 2014. Missouri came to town. And there just weren't really any big games going on that week, but Missouri had kind of figured it out a little bit. And Missouri came back from 13 points down in the fourth quarter to win, too, 21-20. And then since then, it's been all Clemson. 2015, October the 3rd, that was the Notre Dame Clemson night and all the rain and all that bring your own guts stuff. 24-22 Tigers. October the 1st, 2016, 3rd-ranked Louisville at 5th-ranked Clemson, 42-36 Lamar Jackson game. Clemson wins that one. Clemson beat Georgia Tech, ranked number 1 to open the season last year, 52-14.
Open the ACC network.
That's right, open the ACC network August 29th, and then they returned October the 10th this year, for 7th-ranked Miami and top-ranked Clemson 42-17. Of course, that was a blowout. First time ever it will be in Conway coming up this weekend for Liberty and Coastal Carolina. It really is a remarkable feat for the Chanticleers from where they used to be to where they are now. And I'll say this, and I'm not sure that I believed it before. As bad of a season as it's been for South Carolina football at 2-7, they dodged 2 major bullets with this pandemic. Not having to play Coastal and not having to play Clemson.
That's true.
And the Clemson thing, I think it was almost a foregone conclusion to most that Carolina was going to lose their 6th straight this year to the Tigers. Or 7th straight, I guess it'd be. But it would have been a really bad look to open the season for Will Muschamp to lose to Coastal Carolina. Even though we're seeing how good they are now, it still wouldn't have sat well at all for Gamecock fans knowing that they're maybe the 3rd best team in the state of South Carolina. But they didn't have to play them.
Yeah. I mean, that's revisiting a conversation we had weeks and weeks ago.
I didn't believe it a couple of weeks ago. And you know what? Who knows what would have happened?
Exactly.
Because all those Carolina didn't have all these injuries and opt-outs and stuff. Who knows? But the more that you look at it, you go, wow, that really could have happened.
And it also could have gone the other way. Carolina could have won the game and flipped the season for Coastal. Point. Remember, they were picked to finish dead last in the Sun Belt. Before we get to the Mike Bobo press conference, a reminder, Dog and Duck is launching a pajama drive, keeping everyone in need in mind until December 20th at all 3 locations, Clements Ferry, Bell Hall, Park West. Pajamas, socks, anything to keep you warm until December 20th.
One of the hot topics as we go to break for game day this week during that 3-hour time span is going to be about the future of Hugh Freeze and Jamie Chadwell.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate for Coastal fans because game day will be there. And I'm anxious to see what all they do with Myrtle Beach, how much they try to implement Myrtle Beach, because they'll be in Conway, how much they try to implement Myrtle Beach into the show. But don't think for 2 seconds that one of, if not a couple of their segments are going to be about the futures of both of those coaches.
A, absolutely that's going to happen. And B, it's going to be mostly about Myrtle Beach and how Coastal Carolina is at Myrtle Beach.
You're right. Yeah. Time for a timeout. When we return, we'll head to Columbia for Mike Bobo's press conference previewing the Kentucky Wildcats coming up on Saturday. So hang tight. JB and Goldwater show protected by McFadden Pest Control. We'll be right back.
Is your old car really scary? Does it look dreadful or smell awful? Don't be frightened. There's never been a better time to trade in your spooky old car. Stokes Volkswagen just received a new shipment of the VW Atlas and VW Crossport. But here's what makes that even sweeter. Every new Atlas and Crossport is $3,000 off MSRP. Plus, every 2020 Volkswagen is available with 0% financing. That's right. You get both the huge discount and 0% financing. So if you want to play trick or treat at other dealerships, that's okay. Come see us at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or visit stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Plus tax tag includes $399.50 closing fee. Offer subject to lender approval. Expires month end.
Merry Christmas! Keith Gunther here with McFadden Pest Control, wishing you all a happy holiday season. The only outdoors we want coming inside your home this time of year is the Christmas tree. McFadden Pest Control wants to make sure your family has a safe and enjoyable holiday season. And the best way we know how to do that is to make sure your homes are pest-free. We've been protecting the Low Country for over 40 years. Families trust us. We hope you will too. We're wishing you and your family a Merry Christmas from the entire McFadden Pest Control family. McFaddenPestControl.com.
Family Bingo Night is back. All 3 Dog and Duck locations. Every Monday from 6 to 8 is the perfect time to bring the kids, have dinner, and play bingo. They've upped the prizes with retail store gift cards, gas cards, in-house cash cards, and kid-friendly gift cards like Nintendo, pizza, App Store, and more. Thanks for supporting local businesses like the Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
This is former Gamecock quarterback Perry Orth, and you're listening to my friends JB and Goldwater.
All right, 12:30. Welcome back. Tuesday afternoon, December the 1st. JB and Goldwater show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Mike Bobo is at the podium in Columbia. We're going to send you there as he previews the Gamecocks and the Wildcats.
And we're going to get you the audio here right now as well, because that would be unfortunate if you can't hear exactly what he is saying here.
All right. We do have Pat DeMarco coming up at 1 o'clock this afternoon as well. Gene Sapikoff at 1:30. So stick with the JB and Goldwater show. Plenty more on the Gamecocks coaching search. We've got some college football playoff committees or ranking stuff to get to as well. So going to be a busy day around here until 2 o'clock. But obviously the final week of the season is important to Carolina football, trying to finish the year on a high note. It's been a struggle, certainly, but Mike Bobo has been leading them as well as he could be over the last couple of weeks. Hopefully we'll get some updates on some of these injuries and things like that as well from Mike. And again, Pat DeMarco, an 8-year NFL veteran, I hope that you'll stick around and tune into that conversation at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Obviously, a former Gamecock. He did play when Shane Beamer was there, so he's going to have some thoughts on that as well. But here's Mike Bobo.
Have a chance in Lexington on Saturday night. Questions?
David with the first one.
Hey, Mike, thanks for doing this. Were Shy, Ernest, and JJ able to practice today?
Shy practiced in a yellow jersey. I think it's day 3 of his protocol. So he was non-contact and did practice, which is a good sign. JJ is out right now, and then Ernest is out.
Ben Reiner.
Mike, you mentioned kind of how tricky this defense can be. How much of a learning experience can that be for Luke going against kind of that odd front and some of the stuff that they do?
Well, I think we got to do a good job to help him in how we call plays, and our centers got to do a lot to help him get us in the right run schemes. We won't put a lot on him as far as getting us in and out of plays. I think we'll have to block the looks. We'll have a couple things that I feel he can handle, but I don't. One thing you never want to do is you want to paralyze a guy where he cannot play fast and be instinctive. So what he can handle after we finish this week of preparation is what we'll take into the game. If it's something we feel like that he cannot handle or doesn't understand, then we won't call it. So we can control that.
Mike Yuba.
Mike, I know it's an individual honor, but I mean, when you have a guy like Kevin Harris being able to close in on a mark of 1,000 yards rushing, obviously that's something that isn't just about him. It's about the offensive line and everything that the offense has been able to do. What would that mean, you think, for this team, especially through everything they've been through these last couple of weeks?
Well, I think it's a goal that is on our kids' minds, and not just Kevin. It's something that the offense takes pride in, especially the offensive line and the running backs. They know how close he is and know what he's meant to this football team offensively in the run game and the pass game, and they want to see him get to 1,000 yards. I think yesterday somebody said it was 2013 since the last time we've had a 1,000-yard rusher here at South Carolina, and be able to do it if we are able to do it in a 10-game season against all SEC defenses, I think will be something that this offense can build on for the future.
Cox.
Mike, did you ever think when you left Colorado State, when you became a head coach again, that Adam Prentice would be your fullback, starting fullback? And what does he mean to your offense?
Well, I think he's an unselfish player. First of all, you got to be unselfish to play the fullback position. I don't think he has a carry for the year. He's got a couple catches. He's and I've coached or been a part of offenses that have played fullbacks over the years, and they're usually linebackers that maybe were a step slow that we moved over that might have been scholarship players, or a lot of times they're walk-on linebackers that you bring over, and they just want to do something to help the football team. And that's Adam Prentice. And then he's a starter on every special team. He's a valuable guy. He's been voted captain, a couple times this year, maybe 3 times, 2 or 3 times. And I think the way he goes about his business every single day is the kind of guys you want on your football team. Whether we played with a fullback or not, you would want Adam Prentice on your team because he's a core special teams guy. He's an unselfish football player.
Alan Taylor.
Yeah, Mike, I'm just not asking you to reveal your game plan, but if Shy is in the game and is able to go, just how does that impact how you call a game, and what can you do more with him in there than without?
Obviously he's our number one receiving threat for us this year. So I think it will keep a defense a little bit more honest defensively. That they, have to know where he lines up, and can keep maybe more of a coverage shell or someone a little bit higher in the post. Where if you didn't have him. And Georgia played some quarters last week, some 2 safeties look, but the safeties were real aggressive. But if you've got a shot in there, and as much run game we're running can open up some of the play action passes. to him and Nick Muse. Obviously, Nick was big last week off some play action stuff, but you get Shy in there, that gives you another threat.
Ben? Ben Briner?
Ben.
Hey, Mike. Sorry about that. In terms of, I know we talked a couple weeks ago about the potential bowl situation being with the weird rules. I wanted to ask, has Coach Tanner given you any update on that, and what's that kind of situation?
He has not, and I haven't asked. I'm focused on getting this team ready for Kentucky. And again, it's going to be a tough football game in some elements, and that's been our focus. We're trying to stay in the present. Every single day as a football team and as a coaching staff. And I know, it might be like, well, that's coach speak, but that's the truth. We don't control making those decisions. We control getting ready for Kentucky and, reviewing this film and then getting ready to have a good practice tomorrow. And that's really the only way you can go about things, especially in this day, with everything going on. You're trying to keep these kids focused one day at a time.
Eric Boynton.
Yeah, hi, Mike. You just alluded to Kevin and the 10-game SEC schedule. Having 2 fewer games, playing all SEC opponents, would a 1,000-yard season be one of the better achievements in your mind that maybe you've witnessed or been around over the course of a year?
Yeah, there's no question. You're playing against SEC opponents every week. We have not been, really that balance of a football team, or have not been very proficient in the passing game. So, it has made running the ball a little bit more difficult. Now we've done a good job, running a few different schemes. Coaches have done a good job game planning. The players have done a good job adjusting. We've given, him a chance to be successful in some different type of runs. We've been creative in our run game, is what I'm trying to say. But when you're pretty much, one-dimensional like we've been, and for him to do that against a whole SEC, schedule, I think that speaks volumes of, this offensive group and what they've done, and obviously him. And I said it last week, we've done a good job up front and tight ends and receivers blocking to get him to the second level untouched, and we've all seen his speed. But I think what he did last week is going to give him even more confidence, how he ran behind his pads and broke tackles. When he can do that on a consistent basis, and then when we give him, a crack and get him in the second level and he can have explosive plays like he's had this year, I think he's got a bright future. And he's got good ball skills, catching the ball out of the backfield, and he's been a good protector. And Kevin's not a guy that doesn't say a lot. He comes to work. He came out of spring, down on the depth chart because of injury and really not getting a lot of time in it with his groin. I think he had in the 5 days, and then, basically went to work, didn't say anything, and proved himself. And I said this the other night on a call. I think Coach Kitchens has done a really nice job with all those backs, holding them to a standard of what we expect here of how to play running back, and those guys have responded. And you've seen pretty good running back play by our group.
Dick Cox.
With all the teams been through this year, would you personally like to see them get the opportunity to play another game against somebody other in the SEC?
Well, I mean, I think, if you're a competitor, you want to play anytime you have an opportunity. And that was my message today to the guys. If you're a competitor, you don't worry about everything that's going around you. And, it's easy to say, we don't have this, we don't have that, our coach is not here. We're playing in, 29-degree weather at 7:30. I mean, there's a ton of things. But if you're a competitor, you step up and you answer a challenge and you own the situation you're in, you go to work. So if you have an opportunity to play, competitors want to play, and if we didn't want to play, then, that would tell you that we ain't got enough competitors here in South Carolina to be competitive.
David.
Mike, I know that you coached in cold weather for 5 years before coming here, but a lot of your guys here probably haven't played in it. How does that affect your game planning to go up there where it might be really cold and might be snow on the ground?
Well, cold weather has I've coached in it in 5 years. I think it's a mindset. Obviously, it was a little chilly this morning. We went outside. That was the first thing I talked about in the team meeting of what the weather's going to be. And this is going to be a weather game, and it's going to be a physical game. And we got to have the right mindset. You know, we can't be shocked when we get out there and it's cold. We got to go play. You know, the cold never really. It's when it's cold and maybe windy. The wind probably affects your play calling more than anything. If the wind, and I've read the weather reports, I don't see the wind being that much of a factor. You know, 8 to 10 miles an hour on the weather report I looked at last night. But you know, it could if it gets slick out there. You know, if it's snow to ice and it's a little, I mean, it could be. And I think protecting the ball is going to be huge in all areas. Points are going to be valuable if it's that type of weather game. You know, so like we talked about, field goal block. You know, if we get an opportunity to score, we got to score. If we get an opportunity to possibly either block an extra point or block a field goal, those could be big momentum plays. So we talked about that today, how, you know, every possession is going to be important. Taking care of the ball is going to be important. And then the biggest thing is mindset. You know, I mean, I know they live in Kentucky. I don't think it's been that cold up there, but they got a lot of players from the South too on Kentucky's team. So they're going to have to play in that weather as well.
Rick Henry.
Hey, Coach, a little earlier you mentioned about trying to keep the guys focused. I was just wondering, is maybe it a little tough to keep some of them focused because of mental fatigue, just how trying this season is? Because we know how you can get beat up physically, but with everything going on this year, some of the guys maybe just getting a little mentally fatigued.
I think so. I think it's been a long season. It's been a tough season, you know, and things don't always go the way you want them. And sometimes, you know, physical issues are going to happen every year in a season, like you just mentioned. But sometimes, you know, the mental things can weigh on you more than anything. And, you know, and we talked about that today. Frustration can lead to more frustration, and can basically paralyze you. But if you try to separate that thing and focus on the task at hand, you know, every single day, and embrace the challenge that you have, because you're going to have challenges the rest of your life. They don't realize that this is the best time in their life right now, in college. You know, when we take care of them and we feed them and we clothe them, and they're going to, you know, for long, they're going to have a job and they're going to have a family. They're going to have a wife looking at them, you know, when they come home, and, you know, asking them a bunch of questions, and they got to provide. And I mean, things might not go right, whether it's with your job, with your family, with your health, with, you know, family members' health. And so, you know, everybody has challenges. You know, sometimes we tend to look at our own self and think we have the biggest problems in the world, and everybody's dealing with them. So, you know, I just constantly harping that. And, you know, and to be honest, it's been harder this year because it's harder to hold them accountable when the NCAA allows people to opt out at any time. And there's no consequences. No, you can't hold them accountable. You know, yes, it was for COVID, but now, I mean, there's opt-outs every other week, and there's nothing to hold them accountable for. Stay on scholarship, you get your cost of living. You know, it's been tough, and it's been a challenge, and we're not the only people dealing with it. Every coach in America is dealing with it. So, you know, I'm not, like I told them, I'm not going to cry about it. I'm not going to cry about the situation that we're in. You know, I'm here. I don't know for how much longer, but I'm here right now, and I expect to have a great practice and get ready to go kick, you know, Kentucky's butt.
On Taylor.
Yeah, Mike, 2 questions. Do you know who's going to start at left tackle this weekend?
I do.
Are you sharing that, or are you going to keep that a secret?
No, you'll probably see both guys. I don't know who's going to start yet. Okay.
And I guess on the TV broadcast, they talked about Luke Doty Thursdays. I'm curious, can you kind of share how that came about?
Sometimes I'm a negative person. You know, I kind of, you know, I'm always, you know, and I'll be positive, and in the meeting, sometimes I'm always harping on the little things that we got to do right. And so a while back, I was coaching at another place. I decided to make Thursday positive Thursday. You know, we're going to be positive. I'm going to say nothing positive. We're getting right, you know. So it's always been positive Thursday for me on Thursdays to get myself right going into Saturday. But when I came here, Luke Doty, it doesn't matter whether he threw a pick or he misread something. He is the most positive guy in the world. So I changed it to, Luke Doty Thursday because he's positive. That's the story.
Michael Espy.
You realize this, but hey, can you hear me? You got me? I don't know if you realize this, but Kentucky and Carolina are the only two teams in the SEC that are playing their 10th game this weekend. If I would have told you that at the beginning of this season, what would you have said to me?
Well, that's stuff that's not in our control. You're going to have tests, and you're going to, if somebody tests positive and got contact tracing, you got to see what the doctors say, see who's going to be there, and there could be some cancellations, and sometimes it's not in your control with another team. I think we've been, I wouldn't have thought that. I think it's a credit to, the SEC and everybody being structured, being organized. Obviously, Kentucky has had some issues and played probably close to the number last couple weeks. And I think you get to this point, you're like, we're gonna keep playing. If you got some of these teams that are going to stretch out and play games to December 19th. Have 3 more games. In a season that's already been so long that somebody asked that question. The mental side of it for these players. I wouldn't have thought it. But here we are right now. Knock on wood, we got one more test on Thursday. And our goal is to get this game in and go up there and compete. But I didn't think we'd make it this far, to be honest.
Tim Brenner.
Mike, you kind of talked a little bit about guys having the opportunity to opt out and all that. And I guess what do you learn about Shai and the fact that it's been a rough season and he's still fighting to come back? A lot of guys in his situation probably would have opted out or at least sort of loafed their way through the end of it. And what do you kind of learn about him with the way he's approaching it this week?
Well, I'm proud of Shai. I've mentioned it a couple times when I've talked to you guys. I haven't talked to you guys a lot except for the last 3 weeks. But Shai is a guy that we challenged when we got here. Told him what we needed, out of him to help this football team and for himself to be successful. And Coach Cox has done a really good job with him. He's done a good job, and we're trying to game plan yesterday, and went found him and talked to him, and he said I'm trying to go, and ultimately it's the doctor's decision. You don't play when it's dealing with head injuries, and we'll see what they say. But I'm excited he was out there. I didn't think he was going to do as much as he did today, and I think it's kind of what I talked about. The seniors, your legacy is not going to be in wins. Your legacy is going to be how you fight through adversity. How do you pass down to the younger guys when things aren't going good? How do I work? How do I go about my business? And I think Shai's a really good example of that. I told him earlier in the year, I don't need you to be the team leader. I need you to be a good teammate and come to work every day. And I think your play, if you do that, will have a chance to be exceptional. And I think he's been a very good player for us. And another guy I want to mention is Darius Rush, who was out for 2 weeks for COVID. Here's a guy that was on scout team at the beginning of the year, but he played on special teams. He just went to work every day. He had a role on special teams. He has an injury, and they give him the option to have surgery during the year or wait till after the season. He says, I'm waiting after the season. And this guy was just a gunner and ran down on kickoff. I want to play. I got a role. I want to help South Carolina try to win ball games. He had COVID. He easily could say, hey, I'm done for the year. He's back. He was back today. He had practice 50% of the practice. He should be cleared for all the practice tomorrow. And he'll have a big role for us in Saturday. And you can't say enough about those guys. I made a point to mention that to the team today about Darius Rush, and he's excited to be here. Excited. He's embracing the challenge. That's what you want. You got to have more guys like that if you want to be a competitive football team.
Eric Boynton.
Yeah, Mike, have you had any discussions yet with Colin Hill about whether he plans to return next year? And would you expect that after all he's been through, all these comebacks he's made, that he's likely to play as long as there's an opportunity for him to play somewhere?
I have not, in a while. Had a discussion with him about that. I think that's something that he'll probably sit down with him and his family and figure out the best opportunity for him. Whether it's here or whether it's moving on and trying to play at the next level, or so another school. I haven't had that conversation with him.
Dick Cox.
I know you've coached in a lot of cold weather games and you're used to it. Now, are you one of these guys who are going to break out all the thermal gear and stay nice and warm? Or are you one of these tough coaches that'll wear a short sleeve shirt or just a sweatshirt?
Well, it's kind of, in Colorado, I wore shorts sometimes when it was cold, and wore short sleeves in like 10-degree weather when we played Utah State one time, just to prove to the guys that it's not that cold. It's going to be cold. We realize that, and they'll have stuff. They make all this nice stuff that Under Armour makes that keeps you warm. The main thing is they won't wear sleeves if they touch the ball. And as far as me, I won't have a lot on. But people don't realize is when I got sick, I lost a lot of feeling in my hands and my feet. My feet are still numb. So, when it gets cold, it used to be your feet get first thing that gets cold. See, I can't feel my feet anyway. So people think I'm tough, but I have some nerve issues where cold weather doesn't bother me right now.
There you go. Mike Bobo, press conference still ongoing in Columbia. We'll update you on anything that is relevant and important to this conversation as it continues. We do have Pat DeMarco, former Gamecock, ahead in 10 minutes. Also, 8-year NFL veteran. He's been kind enough to join us today as well. A couple of quick notes here. Shi Smith is in day 3 of his concussion protocol, which is a good sign. I think last week he got to day 2, and they had to shut him back down. So this week he's on day 3. If he continues tomorrow and Thursday, he will be cleared. And I'm sure that Mike would announce that Thursday night on the call-in show. So if they can get Shi Smith back this weekend, that'll be a huge help to the offense. And most importantly, a huge help to Luke Doty as a true freshman, having the best option to catch the football out there. That'd certainly be nice. But Ben Briner with the State newspaper asked a great question. A few minutes after he mentioned Shi being in day 3 of protocol, Mike Bobo, that is, Briner followed up with Shi Smith and the fact that he could have opted out. I mean, he goes down with a concussion, only a couple of games left in the season, and he's a guy he's more than likely not coming back next year. He's going to be a draft pick. He's probably going to be the 3rd wide receiver drafted from the Muschamp era, and those other 2 guys are pretty good, by the way, named Debo and Brian. And he gave a great answer about Shi Smith, and Mike Bobo saying, look, I don't need you to be the team leader. I need you to be a great teammate. How much better of a teammate could you be? I mean, I know early in the season, there were some Carolina fans who were frustrated with him kind of jibber-jabbering back and forth with opponents after he'd make a catch and things like that. Who cares? I mean, this guy has put up numbers. He's the best option they've got. And he's a hell of an option. He's one of the best wideouts in the league. He's one of the best wideouts in the country if they had a consistent offense. But what a point to be made there. This guy could have said, I've got the concussion. I got the draft to worry about. I'm not going to play. They're 2-7. They're playing for literally nothing but pride. And Shi Smith said, forget it, coach. I'm trying to come back and play the final game.
With the opt-outs, we've all come to the general agreement here that if you're opting out and you don't have an NFL future that you are working towards, you've basically just quit on your team. If you do, then that's kind of that's the one way to say, okay, we get it, right? JC Horn, okay, I get it. Shi Smith could have done the exact same thing.
Absolutely.
Easily could have walked away and easily would have gotten a positive response from the majority of the fan base for just, look, you had a hell of a year. Now go make yourself some money, young man. But instead, he's trying to come back and play in this last game in miserable weather just because he wants to be a good teammate. I mean, that's the type of thing that, as Bobo pointed out, that's the thing that trickles down to the younger guys on the team. That's the thing that you can carry over to seasons down the road.
That's the stuff you need. There's no doubt. Will Muschamp used a great quote commonly in Columbia, and he was asked about Shi Smith often and other players who would, have maybe a little bit extra to say after a play and things like that. And he said, look, I'd rather be able to say whoa than giddy up. And he was right on. Certainly a guy you have to say whoa to is Shi Smith, but right now they really desperately need him out there. The bad news, though, JJ Enagbare and Ernest Jones out. not going to be able to go against Kentucky, and that is enormous, unfortunately, on the road this weekend. By the way, this weekend, both in Lexington and in Blacksburg, where Clemson's going to be, both lows that night, 31, expected to be somewhere in the low to mid-30s throughout the ball game, and anticipating rain and then changing over to snow showers. It's been a while since Carolina has seen snow in a football game, certainly. Do want to point out as well, Kevin Harris, 72 yards shy of 1,000. If he gets 72 this weekend, he'll be the first since Mike Davis did it back in 2013. Mike now currently with the Carolina Panthers. Right now at 928 rushing yards this year. Not only does that lead the SEC, it is good enough for third in the country for Mike Davis, or for Kevin Harris at South Carolina. Just a tremendous story. And Luke Doty Thursdays, I thought that was interesting as well. Mike Bobo long has done positive Thursdays, but he has changed it to Luke Doty Thursdays because Luke always just a very positive guy. Probably a good thing if you're going to be the starting quarterback. Couple of other quick notes here. South Carolina and Kentucky, the only teams in the SEC who will be playing their 10th game of the season. Right on track. Really remarkable feat for both of them. Keep in mind, Carolina could have opted out last weekend with the low numbers. They did not do it. And Kentucky, I think, has had a game like that this year as well. They have both decided to push forward and keep playing. So they'll do that. And also, quick note from Morgantown, West Virginia. I told you to kind of keep an eye on this at the top of the show. Neil Brown says, quote, "I am not a candidate at South Carolina," end quote. So Neil Brown is officially out of the mix to be the next head coach of the Gamecocks.
Yeah, take it for what you will.
Yeah,
I mean, because Satterfield said something right along those same lines not too long ago.
Well, yeah, there's more to this story
Right.
that will probably be out within the next 24 hours or so, but I would not anticipate Neil Brown being here. Let's just put it that way. We'll leave that to J.C. Sherbert to summarize
There
for
we go.
everybody tomorrow. I do want to give a shout out too quickly to all my to my in-laws out in Laramie, Wyoming. Neat little story here from Mike Bobo. Said he went into remember Mike used to be the coach of Colorado State and Wyoming, big time rivals, an hour and a half apart. He said he went into halftime in Laramie at War Memorial Stadium, where I've been before, during a CSU Wyoming game. The field was clear. They came back out 15 minutes later and snow had already covered the field. He said, "My God, it's a blizzard." He said the local official said, "No, that's normal."
No, it's Saturday.
No, that's what happens in Laramie, Wyoming. You can change in 15 minutes. But the most notable notes there from Mike Bobo today in the press conference. All right, hour one is in the books. Time for a timeout. When we return, former H-back at South Carolina, Pat DeMarco, 8-year NFL veteran, dealing with an injury this year, but hopefully ready to be back on the field come next fall. He's going to join us here on our program. We'll talk about the state of the Gamecocks program, and then we will also look at the coaching search with Pat and much, much more. You'll want to hear this conversation, so don't go anywhere. The JB and Goldwater Show, protected by our friends at McFadden Pest Control, McFaddenPestControl.com. We'll be right back.
Merry Christmas! Keith Gunther here with McFadden Pest Control, wishing you all a happy holiday season. The only outdoors we want coming inside your home this time of year is the Christmas tree. McFadden Pest Control wants to make sure your family has a safe and enjoyable holiday season. And the best way we know how to do that is to make sure your homes are pest-free. We've been protecting the Low Country for over 40 years. Families trust us. We hope you will too. We're wishing you and your family a Merry Christmas from the entire McFadden Pest Control family. McFaddenPestControl.com.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Bourbon and whiskey drinkers of Charleston, Paddock and Whiskey on James Island and the Terrace Shopping Center on Maybank is your home for the finest and rarest bourbon and whiskey drinks in the Low Country. This is where I hang out. Go meet my friends Reed and Chris and try one of their exclusive barrel pick bourbons. They have the largest private barrel collection in the state, and let their knowledgeable staff recommend your next pour. PaddockandWhiskey.com. Let not your heart be troubled. Paddock and Whiskey is here for your next double. We're all friends around here. Paddock and Whiskey, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Flamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the national anthem.
JB Goldwater Show. Live, loud, and online. All right, 103 final hour on this Tuesday afternoon. Crisp, cool Tuesday afternoon in the low country of South Carolina. Happy December. JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. You can find us on the all-new JB and Goldwater app. Download it. It's free. You can also, while you're in there, purchase a season ticket if you'd like to do that. It's only $5 a month. Bunch of great stuff. Bunch of behind-the-scenes type stuff, like our all-new mini-series Gamecock Talk, and we're scheduled to begin the all-new Whiskey Talk soon with our friends over at Paddock and Whiskey and things like that, so hopefully you'll check that out while you're in the app. Also, jbandgoldwatershow.com. Real quick before we get Pat in here, I want to, I'll just hold off. We'll do that here in just a little bit. We got some neat things going on in town. I want to make sure we remind folks, but we'll get to that coming up in just a little bit. Now to the phone lines we go. We'll head west on I-20. That's the home of Pat DeMarco. He's in Atlanta, Georgia, 8-year NFL veteran, former Gamecock, and I'm very honored to still call him a friend. He hasn't forgotten about me with all of his stardom as well. What's going on, man? How you been?
Oh, I am good, man. Just enjoying this cold, brisk morning in Atlanta. It's chilly here.
No golf this morning, huh?
No, my golf rules, it's got to be over 50.
That's a good rule.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, first and foremost, thanks. And I know that you and I texted back and forth yesterday, and your parents, you said you got up to see you and the wife and kids for Thanksgiving. So we hope you had a happy Thanksgiving, Pat. And will you update us quickly on your health? How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm, I hurt my neck. This was going to be my 10th season, and I hurt my neck during training camp. Just took a stinger, which, over the course of my career, I've had God knows how many. But this one just lingered for 4 or 5 weeks with kind of the nerve tingling stuff, and talked to a few doctors, had a couple of second, third medical opinions, and a couple of the doctors just told me, like, it might not be in your best interest to keep playing due to the limited range you have kind of in your spinal area. Nothing like paralysis, but just continued stingers. So I came back. I did 6 or 7 weeks of physical therapy, and I'm staying in shape just in case a team calls and they're interested in signing an old crafty vet that's making a playoff run, preferably. So yeah, just staying in shape. I'm down a little weight right now. I'm not being having training table and stuff like usual, eating at home and during quarantine. But my health is good. I'd say I'm very happy being at home. Not in Buffalo right now, where I think it snowed 4 or 5 inches, so that's a little relief.
Yeah, dude. I was about to say, if it's cold in Atlanta, how cold is it in Buffalo, where you've been since 2017, right?
Yeah. Oh man, it's that first year scared me and my wife a little bit. It snowed. We had 2 or 3 different storms where we had 4 or 5 feet of snow in a 48-hour period. But the last 2 or 3 winters up there haven't been nearly as bad. But the first one really scared us pretty good.
Well, you're not there now, so I'm glad you're in Atlanta. But Atlanta will get some snow probably at some point in time as well. Now you know how to drive around in it, Florida boy, right?
We actually had a couple flurries last night when I looked at my kid's swing set in the backyard, and there was two little puddles of snow back there. And I was like, showed the kid, and they're like, "Could we go out and play?" I'm like, "No."
Yeah, no. Hey, does your Uncle Chris, does he give you a lot of golf tips, or have you crafted your game on your own?
Oh, he won't even touch my golf game.
Really?
It's so unorthodox. I've never had a golf lesson before in my life. I just go off kind of just an athlete's feel. I usually get free lessons when I get fitted for clubs. I ask the fitting pro, like, "Hey, what should I do here?" So I kind of sneak in a free lesson when I get clubs. But that's the extent of it. I think I'm like a 3.35 index right now, which is about a 5 or 6 handicap.
Wow.
But I hit the ball a long way. But my dad likes to say I'm from tee to green, I'm a scratch, and from around the green, I'm a 7 or 8. So it balances out.
Yeah, you balance out to about a 5, and you're doing just fine.
Well, he said he shot a 79 the other day because he got bit on the back 9 in a few holes. So that's not too shabby.
Yeah.
Not too shabby.
I'd like to struggle my way to a 79.
Does not to I'm not trying to keep bringing up your uncle here, but just because of all the news lately, the Masters just played and stuff like that. Does your uncle, does he ever talk to Tiger? Does he keep up with Tiger? I know they used to be decently good friends, right?
Yeah, I think they're still buddies. I'm not sure. Tiger's a lot more busy than my uncle is right now. My uncle's playing on the senior tour, and he actually moved out to Colorado, and he's kind of enjoying himself and his time out there with his family.
Great.
So Chris is laying low for the most part. As you know, Tiger's out there trying to win majors left and right. So I know they still keep in touch very briefly, but they were buddies. Chris has some good stories about Tiger. If you ever want to try to get Chris on the show, it'd be quite a hoot for you guys.
Yeah, we should do that. We should do that someday. Yeah, no doubt. It's kind of stories like you and I have about the Flint family, but we won't bring any of those up.
Oh boy,
no. Pat, obviously Carolina is reeling 2-7. Coach Muschamp, no longer the head football coach. I do think Mike is doing a great job right now as the interim and just trying to keep the pieces together and try to finish the season out on a high note in Lexington, a place you know quite well, and get Carolina big dogs in this game. So, before we'll talk about the coaching search and things like that here in a minute, but as a player who helped build this program to the expectations that we know it to have now, that was your era, that was your group that kind of set the new standard. When you look at Carolina football now, what do you think?
At times they're tough to watch. I've had more free time, obviously, this year being back home and not traveling for games and stuff. So I'm able to watch just about every game as much as I can stand watching until enough is enough. But the talent level isn't fully there. And I'll give the guys credit. They're playing their tails off.
Yeah.
They're competing. They're playing hard, but it's just to be an SEC contender like Georgia and like Florida, South Carolina doesn't have those players right now, or at least they haven't showed up. I mean, one of my biggest critiques on Muschamp was having all these top 25 recruiting classes year after year and then promoting it and then using the digital media aspect and really like honing in on getting these recruits. Where are these recruits? Where are these four-star athletes? Like, where are these kids? They're not showing up on tape. They're not showing up on Saturdays. And instead he's relying on transfers like Colin Hill and Nick Muse and some of these guys. And it's like, for me, I want a head coach at the university that I have that's going to bring in talent, recruit talent, and develop the talent. So that's my Muschamp rant. You're not getting much more out of me. But that was my frustration with that.
No, and look, I mean, you're not the only one that said that. Certainly, I mean, I obviously we've seen that, and it's been frustrating, and we know that there's players there, but just that, collectively, Pat. I mean, when you look back, let's say when we look back, I mean, you know what? Even throughout your tenure, I mean, 07 to 2010, that 07 class was really good. The 08.
I brought that rating down big time. That was a 2-star.
That's right. Oh, that's all right. Yeah, but you ended up being a 5-star. But you go back and look at those classes, the number of kids that, 07, 08, 09, obviously the big names that everybody still knows, the Lattimores and the Clownies and guys like that, the 10, 11 classes and stuff like that. But collectively, when you looked at those classes, yeah, you're always going to have some defections and you're going to have some kids that don't work out and things like that. But overall, the majority of those classes turned out to be contributors. One of the things that's been said to me by a couple of one of them, your former teammate, another is a guy that played after you, but also put on the uniform, is that, when he's watched this team, he's felt at times like the quote leaders of this team, the guys who perform, the guys that you're expecting to perform week in and week out. A lot of them were performing for themselves and not for Carolina football. Do you believe that to be true?
I think that's kind of the culture that's been around South Carolina since I've been gone, or since a couple years after I've been gone, their recent success, or the success after I left. I think since the Spurrier regime and the Sean Elliott regime left, I think a lot of just the culture around there is play to get drafted, is play for the name on the back of the jersey, not the front of the jersey. It's take care of me and my own instead of take care of the guy to my left and to my right. Because at the end of the day, just like in all sports, if you win football games, it works out for everybody. Like what are the terms we use in the NFL is like, if you go out and you win a Super Bowl, or if you win an AFC or NFC championship, I don't care who you are. If you're a free agent, you're going to get paid wherever you go. Mm-hmm. So success will bring on good things. It's not necessarily just an individual playing well. It's a collective team success that's going to eventually push everybody out better and continue to evolve and move forward.
Pat DeMarco, NFL veteran, former Gamecock, joining us here, 1/13, December the 1st, here on the JB and Goldwater Show. When you were recruited to South Carolina, what was Coach Spurrier's message to you?
It was a big selling point for me was do you want to come to South Carolina when you do something that's never been done before? And that was, to me, that was just something that really jumped off the page. I mean, I wasn't a highly touted recruit or anything, to say the least, but to get an opportunity to, both my parents went to University of Florida. I grew up going to the Swamp. So to see the man that essentially built the Swamp and built the University of Florida's football program, and him offer me a football scholarship, one, that was a dream come true. And then to be part of something that's never been done before at a university like South Carolina, that was the biggest selling point. I got a pretty funny story for you about my whole process getting recruited by Spurrier. I was heading home from an all-star game. I was riding in the car with my dad, and Coach Spurrier called, and he was basically offered me a scholarship then and there. And he's like, "Hey, Pat, we got a spot for you if you want to come join, come be a part of something new and change the way that South Carolina is viewed in the SEC." And I was, being a 17-year-old kid, I was like, "Oh, well, I really appreciate that, Coach. Let me think on it for a couple of weeks and I'll get back to you." And my dad's like, "Wait, who was that? What just happened?" And I was like, "Oh, that was Coach Spurrier. He just offered me a scholarship." And he stopped the car, almost jumped out of the car, and he said, "And you told him you'd get back to him in a couple of weeks?" He said, you better call that man back right now and tell him you're going to South Carolina." So I called Coach Spurrier. I waited like 5 minutes because I wasn't going to be. So I called him about 5 minutes later. And I'm like, "Hey, Coach, I thought long and hard about this, and I'm on board. I want to join South Carolina.
long
hard 5-minute decision right there.
Right.
And that's about how long and hard you think about things when you're 17. It makes sense.
Well, yeah, when Steve Spurrier calls, you don't make him wait around for an answer. He ain't gonna wait long, generally.
No, I knew that.
Yeah, that's oh my God, and I can see your dad doing that now. So that's
oh man,
the story fits the image that I have. It all kind of fits together. Did you ever talk to Coach? Have you talked to him in a while?
I talked to him like a year ago. When we made the playoffs in Buffalo last January, he shot me a text like, "Hey Pat, proud of you. Keep leading the way you're leading. I knew you were fit for the NFL, and I knew you had greatness destined for you." Kind of a really nice message, and just very short. Coach Spurrier is not a man of many words unless he's talking to the media in some sense or making fun of some university. So but he came to my wedding in 2015. He actually gave me some wisdom. He said, "Pat, it's not too late if you want to leave." I was like, what? Just typical Spurrier wit.
Yeah, Michael told me he spent some time with Coach at your wedding. I think it was Michael or Steven, one of those guys. And I said, "Well, how was he?" He said he was Steve. He was saying nothing changed. Same old.
He was the first one to take his tie off at the wedding.
Yeah.
He was rocking his, I think it was his Chick-fil-A bowl suit that he got from the bowl game. But he was awesome. Like he endured it. He knew there were going to be a bunch of Gators and a bunch of Gamecocks there. He took pictures. He really did it well. He was more of the hot commodity than me and my wife are at our own weddings, which is kind of sad.
Pat DeMarco here on the JB and Goldwater Show. Before we get to the coaching search stuff, I want to ask you about Josh Allen in Buffalo. I haven't talked to you in a while. So, Josh, so my in-laws, Pat, I don't know if you know this. So my father-in-law, my brother-in-law, my sister, my father-in-law and my I guess that would be stepmother-in-law. They live in Laramie, Wyoming. And then my brother-in-law and his wife and their daughter, they live in Cheyenne. So we get to go out to Wyoming every so often. A couple of years ago, we were out there in the summer of 2018, and a guy who listens to my still listens, but at that point in time was listening to my show on ESPN radio here in Charleston. He reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I heard you say on the air you're going to Wyoming. My brother is a coach for the Cowboys. You want me to contact him and I can get you, maybe he'll give you a tour of the stadium and all this stuff." I was like, "Yeah, that'd be great." So he contacted him. They kind of connected us, and I was able to take all my in-laws when we were out there. We went over to War Memorial, and they just built a $40 million operations center and stuff like that in the end zone. And we went all over the place, and we saw Josh Allen's locker and just all the touristy crap you're going to do in a football stadium. But I said, "Well, what type of guy is Josh?" And everybody out there seemed to love Josh Allen. What type of guy was Josh when you were playing with him in Buffalo?
Oh, Josh he's a lot of things. Josh he's a stud. He's a heck of a football player. He kind of reminds me of kind of the Steven Garcia warrior mentality, like do anything to win the football game. I'm sure you see that on Sundays watching him play. The dude just lays it on the line, left and right, runs over linebackers, will stiff arm defensive ends to break free and make a play. But he's also he's just a good dude. We played golf a decent amount in Buffalo when we were able to, weather permitted. But he's fun. He's young. It's kind of like a little brother to me. I think he was 21 when he got drafted, and I was already 30. So I took him under my wing and tried to show him my way of leading. Obviously, he had his own, being a quarterback and being in the spotlight most of his career. But he's developed into an incredible leader, incredible player, and I'm really looking forward to what his career has in store for him. I think the sky's the limit for him.
I did too, Pat. Want to talk to you about the coaching search as well. Yeah, I think we're kind of on the back end of this thing. I mean, for the last couple of weeks, lucky enough around here to have some really, really good contacts and be able to get quality, truthful information on what's going on, and we'll see kind of where it all lands. But the players, and I know that some that you're close to have been quite vocal about this publicly. Some are in the NFL, some not, like Steven. Steven was on our show a couple weeks ago, very vocal. A large majority of former players are backing Shane Beamer to be the next head coach of the Gamecocks. Are you backing Shane Beamer, and why?
100% I am. Shane is one. He was born in Charleston. I just found that out a couple weeks ago when I was talking to him.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got the Carolina blood. Obviously, his dad was at Virginia Tech for 30 some odd years. And I think that what Carolina needs is they need somebody who's going to bring a bunch of energy, who's going to be able to recruit the state, a guy who's going to be able to change the culture, who knows what winning looks like, who has the ability to lead and develop the culture. And you want a guy who wants the job, not who's looking for the next available job, which I think right now South Carolina is maybe going to be the best gig for 2021 in the head coaching world. But I don't think the university, and personally, I don't want somebody who's going to come in and coach in South Carolina for 3, 4, 5 years and then dip when an NFL team calls, or dip when Ohio State or Alabama call. I want somebody that's going to set their roots in South Carolina and lead us to success for the next, let's say, Frank Beamer, 30 some odd years. So, and I, speaking with Shane, he told me, he said, Pat, this is my dream job. I miss Columbia. I still remember those days in 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, when we had those incredible seasons. And I remember what Columbia was like, and Williams-Brice is like, there's no other place that I want to be a head coach at than the University of South Carolina. And when he told me that, I was like, sold. Let's get this thing, because I think he's the guy for the job.
When you were playing at Carolina, obviously Coach Beamer was on staff. Did he ever express interest then of, hey, one day I'd like to be the head coach here?
I would like to say yes, but JB, I've been hitting the head way too many times to remember that far back. So I don't remember if he said that then, but I know one thing, that he's been very well connected with former players in South Carolina since he was the recruiting coordinator there. I talk to Shane once or twice a year. He usually texts me when me and my wife's anniversary. He'll always text me like, hey, congrats, guys. Like, so happy to see you guys happy in your growing family. And he always stays connected. And I've talked to 20 or 30 former guys that I played with in South Carolina, just trying to get their take on what they think of the head coaching search. And almost every single one of them has, one, backed Shane Beamer, and two, been like, I texted him and he got back to me immediately. Or, I'd actually talked to him a couple months ago. So Shane's got Gamecock in his blood if he's still staying in contact with us has-beens from USC. So I think he'll do a heck of a job, man. I'm really pulling for him. I'm excited for whoever they hire, because just the Gamecock football needs a facelift and it needs some new beginnings. But I really think, and I truly believe, that Shane would come in and do a heck of a job.
Obviously, there was a bunch of coaches on staff back then, but if you can, I know you've been hitting the head a bunch, but it still works. When you go back and think about all the guys that were on staff, did you, in particular, about Shane here, did you believe back then, like, look, man, Shane Beamer, this guy, he's going to be a head coach one day? Did you think that about Shane? Did you think that about others that were under Coach Spurrier?
Yeah, 100%. I thought that about Shane, just from his presence in the meeting rooms. I mean, he was our special teams coordinator, recruiting coordinator. So when us freshmen got on campus, like, he was kind of our immediate liaison. Like, he was the one that we interacted with most. So he kind of sat all the freshmen down and showed us the Gamecock way, what the culture looked like, what he expected from us, along with other coaches. But he really took an initiative. And then, as young guys, unless you're a 4 or 5-star player, you're contributing on special teams right away. So he got his hands on us right away and was able to work with us and develop us. And I mean, shoot, I contribute, playing 10 years in the NFL in some part to Shane Beamer and how he coached me my first couple years at South Carolina, contributed on special teams. Some other guys, I mean, guys like Sean Elliott, like, I really wish that he would have got more of a chance after his interim spot. Because I mean, man, watching the success he's having at Georgia State and everything he's doing there, I loved his passion. I loved his energy. I just remember we were playing Arkansas and these teams in December, and it's 20, 25, 30 degrees, and he's in a short sleeve shirt and shorts out there in a mosh pit with the offensive lineman getting beat up and bloodied up. And that's just the fire and the energy that he used to bring. Somebody else who's just a natural leader was G.A. Mangus, who really kind of, I think, took the offense to another level during my time in South Carolina, developing Stephen Garcia, Connor Shaw, and getting the pass game and that inside Titan zone run game going. So I think, all of those coaches had incredible qualities. I'm a little more biased because I worked with them on special teams and offense. I didn't really work that much with the defensive coaches, but I know we had some really good coaches on the defensive side of the ball as well.
Pat, obviously the landscape's changed a little bit up there. Do you remember back in 2011 when my uncle turned 70 and you gave us a tour underneath the ballpark for him? You remember that?
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah. It doesn't look like that anymore, does it? It's a little bit different around there. What do you think? What do you think that, obviously back then Shane could recruit. I mean, and it was much nicer with 07, 08, 09, 10, 11, those years than it was prior to that. I've been around this program my whole life. But now in 2020, it's a lot different, and it competes with every school in the league. What do you think, knowing what Shane did then, what could he do now with what South Carolina's turned into?
I think just the opportunity South Carolina still hasn't won an SEC championship game. I think just that alone, kind of spur your selling pitch to me was, do you want to be part of something that's never been done in school history? And I was coming from Florida, so I didn't know that much about South Carolina football to begin with. But I think if you go in state, I know you're recruiting against the team up north, but when you come in state and you get these 4- and 5-star recruits and you're saying, hey, dude, we're missing some talent, and you could come right in and you can play right away, and you can be the next Marcus Lattimore, the next Jadeveon Clowney, where you can build this program and you can, set the forefront of what South Carolina is going to be like for the next 10, 15, 20 years. Not to mention the facilities are incredible. I haven't even seen the new indoor facility, but I've seen a virtual tour online, and it competes with an NFL facility. I was sitting there, I felt like I was spoiled in Buffalo because the Pagula, the owners up there, spent a bunch of money on the indoor facility, the training room, brand new weight room. And I'm looking at South Carolina's virtual stuff, and I'm like, this is just as good, if not better, than the best NFL facility that I've ever been in.
Wow. That's just unbelievable. Pat DeMarco, NFL veteran. That's how he would know the answer to that. Final question on this, Pat. No matter who it is, no matter if it's Shane or Billy Napier or Scott Satterfield or whatever name you want to throw out there, they can dig up Newt Rockne for all I care. The question I think that's important here is, how far away is Carolina from competing for the East again? Do you think that this is the potential's there for a rather quick fix? Do you think that whoever comes in is going to need 4 or 5 years to really put their stamp on this thing? When you look at this program, how close are they, do you believe, to turning the corner?
I don't think it's a quick fix in a sense where it's a 1 or 2 year thing. I think that the biggest thing that needs to be said is the culture. Whoever comes in as the new head football coach of South Carolina needs to establish a winning culture like we had in 2007, 2008, and from there. So that's going to be the biggest thing, is to, one, get a head coach in there that brings the energy and makes the guys want to play. And then 2, developing these recruits and have them become the leaders and the men that you want to be in the locker room. In order for a head coach to win over a locker room, he has to have incredible leaders inside the locker room. So whoever the head coach is needs to bring a culture and establish a culture that's surrounded around winning and development of your young prospects. And then it's getting those leaders to buy in and to get the rest of the guys on board. I think if you get the players and you get the culture set, I think in 2, 3, 4 years, we'll be competing for the East again.
Would it be important to you for the next head coach to rely on former players like Pat DeMarco and Steven Garcia and Alshon Jeffrey, whoever it may be, to frequently be able to come back and address this team and be able to try to find a way to unite the most successful era of Gamecock football with this new era of Gamecock football. Is that important as a former player to you, to know that there's a guy that wants you involved?
100%. And that's one thing that I think Will kind of missed on it during his time in South Carolina, was getting guys back. I mean, I think I went back once in the last 5 years. And part of that was because he never reached out to me to develop a relationship. I could have been a huge asset in the university, and especially the football program. And I kind of felt like they didn't utilize me and they didn't want me. So why am I going to, take my bye weekend to go back to Columbia, South Carolina if the head coach and the football program doesn't want me around? So I think the next head coach definitely needs to start implementing stuff like that, getting the guys back around that have been there, done that. Just guys that can tell stories about what Williams-Brice and what Columbia is like when you win 11 games, when you win the SEC, when you come back after beating Florida to win the SEC East. I mean, there was 20,000 people in the stadium at 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
And we went in and JB, you might even have been there. But that was the coolest thing in the world. Coming back on the bus, walking into the locker room and seeing all these cars outside, and we're like, what the heck's going on? And the stadium lights were on, and we're like, what's going on? I mean, the coaches didn't give us a heads up, and we don't even go to the locker room. We walk straight out to the field to the whole lower bowl almost being full of fans. That's what Columbia needs. That's what Williams-Brice needs. That's what that's the model of what the next head coach of South Carolina needs to bring. He needs to bring those former guys that have been there, done that, back around so that they know what it looks like, and they have the exact mold and the blueprint of what South Carolina football needs to be.
I don't know who the next head coach is going to be, Pat, but if anybody out there who's trying to figure out what candidate they support, and they just heard you for the last 15 minutes, I think they probably have an answer now.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, that's really good stuff.
Yeah, so sorry for talking so much.
No, that's what that's why we bring you on.
When I haven't talked to you in a while. I'd like to talk to you longer, but we can't do it. But I do hope, and I doubt that I'm going to see you before Christmas or New Year's or anything like that. But I'll keep up with you. We'll text back and forth and things like that as the next few things evolve with this search. But Pat, I really do wish you and your entire family, your wife and your kids and your mom and dad and everybody, I wish you all the happiest of holiday seasons and the merriest of Christmases. Pat was a great player at Carolina, but he was a better person at Carolina. Anytime you ask people about Pat DeMarco, they actually talk about him, the person, before they ever talk about him as the player. Mm-hmm. And that means a lot. I think it definitely means a lot to me. I know it means a lot to you, Pat, and your parents. So I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for spending some time with us today. Get well, keep getting better. Hopefully maybe somebody will sign you and you can go win a Super Bowl or something here in the next couple of months. Boy, what a run that'd be. And we'll get you back here soon. We need to get you down here so we can go play golf. We need to get Steven down here and you down. We'll all go play golf one day and y'all can whip my rear end, but it'll be fun.
I'd love that. I got goosebumps with you just talking about that kind of stuff. So, no, I appreciate you guys having me on. Hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, we'll have a new head coach and we can start moving forward. And, forever to thee. Thanks for having me on, guys.
You got it, Pat. Thanks, bud. There you go. Pat DeMarco, 10-year NFL veteran, former leader at Carolina, and wow. Honest stuff. Right
so
there.
You've brought on now, and I say you, I mean, you're the one who's got the connections there, Garcia and DeMarco in the last 2 weeks, and the parallels of what both of them said about the type of person Shane Beamer is, the type of unity he would provide from the current to the past, and the conviction with which they both stated it. If it doesn't resonate with you, I don't know what else will.
Well, I mean, look, I've been around. I don't know who the coach is going to be. And whoever it is, Carolina fans are going to support that coach, and they just want to win. I don't know who that's going to be, but I've been on this earth for 35 years, which isn't as long as people like my uncle who've been around here for 80 years and involved in this program for 60 of those 80 years, or actually more than that, but going to games for 60 years and things like that. in my lifetime, I've never seen a groundswell of support for a coaching candidate ever before. There's been a lot of assistant coaches to come through this program. Nobody's ever been supported like this. So the people that say what the players say doesn't mean anything, you're wrong, because it's never happened before. And you've got the winningest era in the history of the school, really good people saying really good things about one person in particular. We'll see where it goes, but it's worth noting. There's no doubt. Gene Sapikoff, we know where we're going. He'll be up next right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, protected by McFadden Pest Control.
Is your old car really scary? Does it look dreadful or smell awful? Don't be frightened. There's never been a better time to trade in your spooky old car. Stokes Volkswagen just received a new shipment of the VW Atlas and VW Crossport. But here's what makes that even sweeter. Every new Atlas and Crossport is $3,000 off MSRP. Plus, every 2020 Volkswagen is available with 0% financing. That's right. You get both the huge discount and 0% financing. So if you want to play trick or treat at other dealerships, that's okay. Come see us at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or visit stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes Meet Dub.
Plus tax tag includes $399.50 closing fee. Offer subject to lender approval. Expires month end.
Merry Christmas! Keith Gunther here with McFadden Pest Control, wishing you all a happy holiday season. The only outdoors we want coming inside your home this time of year is the Christmas tree. McFadden Pest Control wants to make sure your family has a safe and enjoyable holiday season. And the best way we know how to do that is to make sure your homes are pest-free. We've been protecting the Low Country for over 40 years. Families trust us. We hope you will too. We're wishing you and your family a Merry Christmas from the entire McFadden Pest Control family. McFaddenPestControl.com.
Family Bingo Night is back. All 3 Dog and Duck locations. Every Monday from 6 to 8 is the perfect time to bring the kids, have dinner, and play bingo. They've upped the prizes with retail store gift cards, gas cards, in-house cash cards, and kid-friendly gift cards like Nintendo, pizza, App Store, and more. Thanks for supporting local businesses like the Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
Now, hear this.
Who the hell is that? The JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
All right, 1:37, final segment, Tuesday afternoon here on the JB and Goldwater Show. Thanks to Patriots Point for presenting our national anthem daily at 1 o'clock. Check out holycitydrivein.com for the weekend drive-in movie series. It's Christmas time. They're showing Christmas movies over there on the banks of the Cooper River in Charleston, actually in Mount Pleasant, but here in the Low Country. holycitydrivein.com, patriotspoint.org to be able to tour the museum. All right, back to the phone lines we go. And our normal 1:30 slot on Tuesday afternoons. We're a little bit late. I'm sorry about that, but Gene Sapikoff with the Post and Courier will join us again this week. Hey, man, how you doing?
Good. I just want to let you know that if Shane Beamer calls in during my segment, I won't have any hard feelings if you bump me.
No. We'll tell him he's got to wait. You know, he's got to wait until we're ready for him.
He's looking for Pat.
Yeah.
Did you listen to that last segment?
I did not.
Okay.
But
thanks for the support.
Yeah. Well, look. Let's have this conversation with you because everybody has a different opinion of things, and that's fine. That's what these conversations are for. And we're getting, Gene, I think, fairly close to the end of this search. We have a few different candidates. I think everybody's technically, except for Neil Brown, still involved in this thing. You've got a sitting Power 5 coach out there. You got sitting group of 5 coaches. You got a guy who's never been a head coach. You got a multitude of candidates with different backgrounds, and they all bring something a little bit different to the table. But in my lifetime, I've never seen a groundswell of support for a former assistant coach at a school, especially a guy who hasn't been there in a decade or more, like Shane Beamer. And I know that there's some people that think that coaches shouldn't be hired just based on what former players say, because there is a lot of truth in that. There's a lot of players that don't really know what they're talking about. But in this case, there actually are a lot of qualified former players that do know what they're talking about, and they are heavily supporting Shane Beamer with the caveat of we'll support whoever's higher, but this is what we'd like to see here. I know in the last couple of conversations we've had, you made mention of, it shouldn't be all about the former players, and it shouldn't be, and I don't think that it is. But does that mean something when you have qualified guys saying things like that about a head coach? Like, how much should that mean?
Two thoughts. On the one hand, it means something when you're trying to get off the ground and get into some places that you want to recruit. All these players, or most of them, went to high schools, are deeply involved in charity projects and other things within communities that are absolutely in your recruiting footprint. That could be from Florida to North Carolina to Tennessee, all these players we're talking about. That's key at the start. On the other hand, when you're getting your butt kicked in the rain at Kentucky, at Columbia, Missouri, at Ole Miss, where are all those players? They're busy doing something else, and it doesn't really help you. But it does mean something. I don't think it means a lot.
Yeah, I mean, again, we don't know where this is going. I mean, I think there's a lot of us, based on some information we have, that think that Shane is currently the leader. Doesn't mean he'll be the leader tonight or tomorrow, but at this point in time, maybe he is. But as you compare this group, Gene, going back 5 years, let's kind of whittle this down. Shane and Billy Napier and Scott Satterfield and Jamie Chadwell, and insert next coach here, whether it's Hugh Freeze, whatever. When you compare this situation that Coach Tanner is in now to where he was 5 years ago, how do you compare these two coaching searches?
That's interesting. On the surface of it, there were more heavyweight names involved the last time: Kirby Smart and Justin Fuente and Tom Herman. I'm not really sure they could have gotten any one of those guys. There were ways that you could have rationalized the way it was going to happen. Like, for instance, Kirby Smart's going to pick his alma mater over just about any place, any day, especially over another rival in the same division of the conference. But who they got at the end, I might like Shane Beamer a little bit better than I like Will Muschamp. Having said all that, I don't know. I think it's kind of a golf clap for Shane Beamer, but once he's in there, the second he's introduced, I think that, you want Gamecock Nation to get behind him, support him, wish for the best, try your hardest, give him a chance. And that chance needs to be a 3, 4, 5 year chance too.
Yeah.
And that's the way I look at it too, even as a journalist, that kind of is underwhelming to me, that pick. But once he's there, I hope for the best for him, and I want to see it work out and emphasize the positives that a young coach with enthusiasm, who is going to make some big mistakes because he's never been in the big chair there, embrace some of those as learning experiences.
Great comments there. By the way, the screen says 7-time South Carolina Sports Writer of the Year. It should be 17-time. You're that good.
Well, it could be 8.
Yeah,
it could be 8.
So.
He's a finalist this year.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, vote for Grace. Vote for Grace.
Oh. Yeah, it's him and Grace.
Oh man, yeah, that's Gene. I love you. Forget it. It's a split vote. Can we split our vote?
Well, I can vote and you can vote. We can split it that way.
JV and Goldwater gets vote. Yeah, we're voting for both of you because we love both of you. You great point, Gene, because you just heard that I asked Pat DeMarco, and Pat DeMarco, I've known him a long time, and I asked him this question because Pat's not going to answer. He's answering from his head, even though he says it's still banged up today. He's not answering from his heart. He's answering from his head. I said, how much is this a quick fix? How much time do you give this guy? How patient do Carolina fans need to be? He said, no, it's not a quick fix. You need to give a guy 3, 4, 5 years to really, he said, you need to establish a new culture up there. So I think what you said and what a guy like Pat DeMarco said, a 10-year NFL veteran, former Gamecock himself, that correlates. I think it's a great way to put this.
One of my favorite all-time Gamecocks, by the way. I mean, that guy was just terrific within his role and just as a leader, and really made the most of his NFL career. It was cool to see him get those second and third contracts and stuff. But let's look at this. Yeah, this is like almost the opposite reverse thinking here. Yeah, on the one hand, you do have to give him 2, 3, 4, 5 years. On the other hand, don't get too excited after even year 2, because at both Florida and South Carolina, Will Muschamp hit his absolute peak at the end of year 2. And that people just got really excited about that and like, okay, this is going to work out. Yeah, hey, a 9-win season. Wow, that's exciting. And then things just slowly start to go downhill. And the exact same thing happened to Will Muschamp at Florida, where they were in the Sugar Bowl and they line up to play Louisville, and I believe Teddy Bridgewater got hurt really early in that game, and then he came, back out to play, and they lost that Sugar Bowl, and it was never the same again for Will Muschamp. He was 11-2 in that second season, and 4-8, 4 wins the next year. So you have to look at things in like a 3, 4, 5 year thing. I think when you're evaluating coach, 4, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. And obviously Coach Muschamp got through about 4.5, but the trend of the program was just not looking good. And we've, you've looked at the last couple of recruiting classes, you've seen some big players sign. This is another very qualified person who's been on our show that said, look, when I watch them, they don't have players. And that's sad to say, but it is where they are. There is a team that does have players, Gene. It's that team in the upstate. They're pretty good.
I thought you were going coastal with this one.
No, we're getting to coastal last. Okay. Yeah, that team in the upstate. They're going to have the second college football playoff rankings will be released tonight. So, Gene, I don't know if this will happen or not, but I made mention to Darren yesterday that, and they haven't asked me to be on the committee yet. Maybe one day.
Next week.
Next week. Yeah, I might be on next week's committee. But if I had a vote, I wouldn't have Ohio State in there at number 4. I'd have 1 through 3 the way they are. I actually think Florida is the 4th best team in the country right now. Gene, what do you think?
That's tough. You really, you just don't have enough of a sample size for the Buckeyes, which is the problem. But
right.
I don't have a problem with them there. Florida will get its chance to work itself into or out of the playoff. The Texas A&M Cincinnati questions. BYU, please be quiet. You just didn't play anything like the Cincinnati schedule, in my opinion. But it's going to be interesting. And yeah, as far as Clemson goes, they're really pretty good, and now they're very mad. And I think that fiasco that happened to them in Tallahassee is going to end up being a really nice silver lining. That combined with the fact that Trevor Lawrence missed a couple of games, I don't know if they can sustain that intensity that they had against Pittsburgh, but if they can, that's going to be a really tough team to beat, even for somebody like Alabama or Ohio State or Notre Dame, Florida, A&M, whoever.
Gene, talking nice about Clemson, you got to be careful there. I mean, someone called you out about being too nice to Clemson on Twitter today.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what got into me there. That's just insane,
Oh, God help us. Twitter's on it now.
No,
it's over.
I mean, it was like all of a sudden, Gene's a Clemson fan.
Of course he is.
What you saw out of Clemson, though, I mean, we've been talking about this now for a couple of weeks, the inability to really sustain a rushing game, particularly straight up ahead with Travis Etienne, the offensive line. But when they got those guys back on defense, I mean, how much of a lift do you think that gave them compared to the anger from the Florida State situation?
Yeah, probably even more. And that's a good point, Darren, because, James Skalski and Tyler Davis are all ACC first team players. Mike Jones Jr. is probably like an all ACC second team guy. And they even in the Notre Dame game, they lost like 3 different guys in the secondary during the game that were out for significant stretches or significant plays. So to have them all back together, that was something. Now they're going to play an undermanned Virginia Tech team. We'll see who they play on December 12th, if anybody. I think it might be working toward a rearranged situation in which maybe Clemson plays Duke on the 12th. And then, the championship game against Notre Dame. And I'll tell you, all the thought would be, oh, Clemson healthy and Trevor Lawrence will beat Notre Dame. That's going to be one heck of a game because I think Notre Dame just keeps getting better and better.
I agree. I think this is the first time that Notre Dame has been in the rankings in the last 6 years that I look at them towards the end of the season and think that exact comment that Gene just made. They get better every week, Gene. Let me ask you this. If Florida and Alabama, which that's what's going to be, Florida and Alabama, they're at some point in time going to be confirmed in the SEC championship game. Do you think that Florida has a real shot at beating Alabama?
The Florida defense, I just don't know. I think they can score, and that they definitely have a shot. Absolutely. To answer your question, will they? What will the spread be? I'd lean against Alabama just because all those Alabama players have been in this kind of situation, or virtually all of them except for freshmen. And they're just not going to blink in the big spotlight. Some of the Florida guys, I don't know, maybe that the big spot will get them, but that's going to be a heck of a game too. I really like the Gators, and they seem to gradually be getting better on defense too.
Mm-hmm. I ask you that because potentially, maybe for the first time ever, you could have 4 one-loss teams in the college football playoff. If Florida can beat Alabama, and let's say it's a close game, I don't see Florida blowing out the Tide. I don't see anybody blowing them out. And then Clemson, if they can beat Notre Dame in the ACC championship game, I'm telling you, it's hard for me to look around, especially if Florida beats number 1 Alabama and find 4 better teams than that. I think that makes the committee's job really easy. I don't give a damn how many games Ohio State plays.
Right. But so then you're saying 2 ACC and 2 SEC teams in the championship. And I realize Notre Dame's kind of an asterisk as an ACC team. I think it was Bronco Mendenhall David Cutcliffe, the Duke coach, called them our guest. But I'll tell you two things. Just for 2020, we live here. We talk about SEC and ACC football. That's basically how I make my living, writing about SEC and ACC football. That would not be good for college football or the country this year to have 2 SEC and 2 ACC teams in there. I almost hope that's not the case one way or the other. And I'll tell you what, if that does happen, I will take lots of money to the bank and bet that there will be more than 4 teams in the playoffs next year.
Ooh, good.
So then maybe it would be good.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, that's a good point. Darren, you always have this intellectual way of finding the good story there. You're right about that. Let's root for that.
I am going to that soundbite. That soundbite I'm cutting up, and it's going to be my new voicemail. You always have this intellectual way.
Oh yeah, Darren. Yeah, Gene, you ruined our program. But so Ohio State. But is there any? I mean, there's nobody from the Pac-12. There's nobody from the Big 12. The only other team outside of Ohio State that I could even fathom is the team that Desmond Howard chose before the season to make it into the college football playoff, and that is Cincinnati. But they're certainly going to need some good fortune. They're going to need Florida to lose. Going to need A&M to lose. They're probably going to need Ohio State to not qualify for the Big Ten.
Yeah, there is a path for Cincinnati. The Ohio State thing, they need Notre Dame to beat Clemson. And then I'll tell you, Alabama beats Florida, and Texas A&M sitting there in front of them. Having gone out to Grapevine, Texas, and sat in on one of those mock things last year for the playoff thing, it was emphasized to me over and over and over, we value a conference championship. Cincinnati, by winning their conference championship, I believe would jump over Texas A&M. So they do have a path. They have a chance. It's not a good one. And I don't think that they're necessarily in any way the 4th best team in college football. They're probably the 9th or something if you really get down to it on the field. But yeah, that'd be interesting. This is obviously intriguing on so many levels. It's so 2020 as we go through this playoff selection process.
On Twitter at Sapikoff, 7-time South Carolina Sports Writer of the Year, Gene Sapikoff, in his usual Tuesday afternoon slot here on our program. Hey, it's 2020. If there's a year for it to happen, it's now. The committee could probably find some way to squeeze somebody in there who's not traditionally in there and get away with it. All right, but let's head up the road to Conway, because for the 15th time, College Game Day will be in the state of South Carolina this weekend. By the way, combined record between game day visits at Clemson and Carolina, 9-5. Tigers 6-1 in their 7 appearances when the show is in the upstate, 3-4 in Columbia for the Gamecocks.
Bringing down the records again. So what's up with Gene's phone, man?
Gene hangs up on us every week at 154. We'll have to get him back here. But it is a combined 9-5 record, and Coastal Carolina, by way of hosting Liberty this week, will welcome the very popular ESPN pregame show to Conway, South Carolina. I think we need to get a hold of Esparza because see what the betting odds are for what they'll be showing on the TV, like the things in Myrtle Beach and stuff like that. But Gene, what does this mean as we get you back here? What does this mean for Coastal Carolina's program? They're undefeated. They're 20th, which might be maybe a little low in the college football playoff rankings. What does this show arriving to town this weekend mean for them?
A Wall Street marketer's dream. I mean, this is incredible, not just for football recruiting, but for, applications, admissions, getting professors interested to come to Conway, South Carolina. I mean, this is just amazing, and no one could have seen this coming. Phil Steele, I think, is the best preseason analyst. He had Coastal 110 of the 130 FBS teams rated before the season. The Sun Belt coaches had Coastal last. They got the fewest points in the Sun Belt Conference poll in the season. And just what they've pulled off and just the fun that they're having while they're playing is just going to be like a 3-hour commercial for the university. It's incredible. It's really one of the great feats in athletics at any level that I've seen in like the 30 plus years that I've been doing this.
And honestly, we're all from this state. So, we say Conway, but the focus will be on, quote, Myrtle Beach. Let's keep in mind, coming up here in just a few weeks is the inaugural Myrtle Beach Bowl. It's a pretty nice time of the year for that part of the state, huh, Gene?
Well, yeah, and here's the thing, too, that show you the progress that Jamie Chadwell and the guys have done there at Coastal. And I talked to him on a conference call yesterday, but, the Myrtle Beach Bowl would be a great thing for Coastal to be in. They kind of hope to be too good for that.
That's a good
this
point.
year. And that's just really sums it all up right there.
That's a great point. Is Jamie Chadwell coaching in Conway in 2021?
Wow, I'll tell you what, if it was anything but this coronavirus year, I'd say he's out. But I just think that there's going to be a lot of programs hesitant to pull the trigger on a coaching move this year for all the reasons we've already discussed, buyouts and university employees having to take furloughs, etc. And that this just might not be the year to make a move from his point of view, and because I just don't think there'll be as many openings as usual. But he is going to do well at the next step that he makes.
You think his offense would fit in? And sorry,
You
go
took
ahead.
it- No, you took it right out of my mouth.
Sorry about that.
I was going to phrase it differently. I was going to say, will the offense translate, or does he have to evolve that a little bit?
I think he can and will evolve it a little bit. He's been flexible. Yeah, there's some things that have been steady there, but he can do different things that are tailored to talent of the guys around him. For instance, he's got this tight end, Isaiah Likely. I mean, that guy's going to be an NFL draft pick. He's 6'4", 250, runs fast, blocks, is a really tough blocker, playing with an injury. I mean, so you showcase him if you've got him, and they have. But if he's had running backs, he's gone with that more. I think Jamie Chadwell's quite flexible, and I'm not even sure that he would be, his own coordinator at the next stop anyway. His best skills are as a leader.
Great point. Likely to be in the NFL one day. All right, Gene, 30 seconds. What are we looking for in the paper this week? Nothing to talk about.
No, I mean, I've got kind of a little mini profile of Jamie Chadwell in tomorrow's Post and Courier. David Cloninger is all over the South Carolina coaching news, him and Andy Shane, our Columbia Bureau reporter, and, a lot of good stuff from Clemson as they head to Virginia Tech from Josh Needleman.
Always a pleasure to have you around here, Gene. On Twitter at Sapikoff. You should follow him. Don't be mean to Gene. It's Christmas. He's not a Clemson fan. He's not a Carolina fan. He's a Colorado State Ram. Guys, he's a Ram for life. He's a life Ram.
He's the one.
That's right. Gene, thank you so much, man. We really appreciate it.
All right, guys. Be careful out there.
Yes,
All
sir.
right,
You
see
too.
ya.
There you go. All right. We are all but out of time. By the way, quickly on the National Day calendar, it is National Day of Giving. Giving Tuesday is what it is.
All right.
And it is also National Pie Day.
That's a good day.
It's a great day. Eat your favorite pie and don't feel bad about it. Eat the whole dang thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And don't feel bad about it.
Don't feel
That's
bad.
the important part right there.
Don't feel bad. Thanks to Pat DeMarco and thanks to Gene Sapikoff. And as always, thanks to Darren Goldwater and all of you for watching and listening to our program daily from noon until 2 o'clock. Tomorrow, a huge update on the coaching search with JC Sherbert of thebigspur.com. You'll want to be here for that. For Darren, I'm Jamie. Have a terrific and chilly Tuesday afternoon. The JB and Goldwater Show, protected by McFadden Pest Control, back tomorrow at noon.